Hey guys, Rob Cosberg here with Bestseller Publishing. You can find us online at bestsellerpublishing.org. So your book's been launched and it was a big hit. Success, maybe some great things like speaking engagements, new clients came from it. But what now? What happens after the launch? What we're going to talk about today is setting up a very simple client attraction system. Simple yet powerful and elegant. Stay tuned and I'll fill you in. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about setting up a simple client attraction system. Your book's been successful. Now what do we do? Well, Ted and Andrew Coleman came to me with a great book that they have written called The Nehemiah Effect. And Ted and Andrew are enterprise agile coaches. And what they were looking for is speaking engagements, client attraction, that sort of thing, like most consultants, speakers, business owners, service providers, experts, etc. are looking for. We launched their book, super successful. Within the first couple of weeks, we had over 40 five-star reviews on the book. In the launch process, they got several new clients as well as several great speaking opportunities, all from the launch. But then after that, after the launch is over, a system needs to be set up so that you can use your book, the most powerful tool in your arsenal, to attract great clients and speaking engagements, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about setting up what we call a CAS, or Client Attraction System. Now, the Client Attraction System, by the way, can be used in several facets. Our Publish, Promote, Profit trademark program, in the profit phase, we talk about three primary profit activators or attractors. The first is speaking engagements. The second is free publicity, radio, television, industry magazines, etc. And the third is just pure, simple lead generation through a variety of media sources. Today, what we're going to talk about as far as the client attraction system is for speaking engagements. Okay, so speaking engagements. So here's what we want to set up, and here's how we're going to set up our simple client attraction system. So there are three things that we want to focus on. Number one is our target opportunity. This is our target audience for speaking engagements. Number two is we want to consider our assets. And number three is we want to put together our system. Now I'm going to go into each one of these in detail, but let's first start with the target. So with the target, here's what I want you to consider and think about. I want you to think about a bullseye. A bullseye. In the middle of that bullseye is your, what we would call, direct client for speaking engagements. This is the most specific and direct individual organization or company or client that you're targeting. So as I said, this could be the company. For example, with Ted and Andrew, it might be Pepsi, maybe one of the larger companies like Exxon, a large banking association, perhaps Bank of America, Chase, etc. It's the direct organization and the specific individual that would make the decision to bring you in. So the direct organization or the company. That is the center of the bullseye. Remember, we're talking about your target. Just outside of that is going to be your association, kind of your second tier, if you will, target. And that would be associations or organizations that could connect you with your direct company or organization. This could also be conferences that you could speak at. Conferences. So again, center of the bullseye, the direct and specific company. The first tier outside would be perhaps an association or organization where all of those people are coming together, or a conference where all of those people are coming together to learn. Then the outer part of the target would be what we would call your second tier, and the second tier would be perhaps local groups or business associations that could connect you with conferences or your direct organizations. So here's the first step that we go through with our direct clients. The first step is figuring out, okay, who specifically is our target for speaking engagements. What we want is we want our clients to come up with a list of about 100. That would be 100 of all three of these. Not 100 each, but 100 total. So as many direct organizations or companies that they can list, and we're talking about the obvious name of the company, the address, if we can get the specific individual or the department, we need that, email address and telephone number, and we'll talk about why we need all of those things. Same with associations, organizations, or conferences. Who is the conference organizer? Who is the program director of the association that could bring someone in for a webinar or a speaking engagement? We want to make that list. And then last but not least, and this is probably easier because this could be Chamber of Commerce or local business groups and associations, probably smaller groups, but again, kind of second tier because they're not necessarily going to be your direct target. There may be one or two in a group of 50 that could be your direct target, but more than likely it's going to be a second tier or a referral type source. So we want to first nail down who that target is, and we want to get to 100 plus names, addresses. If we can get a direct telephone number and email address, fantastic. We need all of that when it comes time to set up our system. Okay, that's number one. Number two, as I said, is we want to take a good look at what our assets are. Now, assets would be things like your direct sphere of influence, your personal clients, past clients and current clients, your specific email addresses. Now, a lot of people come to me and say, you know, I haven't done a very good job, my list is old. Don't worry about that. We have some fantastic strategies that will reinvigorate and energize an old email list. So don't worry about that. We have to first take account of what all of our assets are. We need to know, as I said, things like our referral sources. And our referral sources are past and present clients. They are relationships that we have within the industries. And they are, of course, things like our email and mailing list. We want to take stock in all of that. What I found is that most people that come to me would say that they have very little assets, but once we start to dig, we find literally hundreds of referral sources, past and present clients, relationships, and email and mailing list. And we want to use that because people that already like you, already know you, even if it's been maybe months or years before, you know, since you've connected with them, they're going to be very, very easy for us to use the book and to kind of reinvigorate and re-energize that relationship. So we start with the target. Then we consider what the assets are, and then third and finally, we want to set up a very simple and yet elegant system. So here's the very simple system that we suggest. There are a couple of things about a system that are important. Number one, a system should be very simple, and it also should be very consistent. It's not a system if you don't do it every single week and you don't do it on a consistent basis. A launch is not a system. Now, we have a system to launch our clients' books, but once that's over, the launch is done and it has succeeded and created, you know, perhaps bestseller status, new clients, speaking engagements, etc. But then after that, this simple system and consistent system must be put into place. So here's what we do that's very simple. We have our client order copies of their books. This is something that we help them with directly, and this is something that you can put into practice immediately. We have a very simple cover letter, kind of a plug-and-play type cover letter that is an introductory cover letter. Remember, all of our clients are bestsellers because we go through the bestseller launch. So what we want is we want our client to send a copy, a physical copy of their book, to the direct organization or company, that specific person who makes that decision, or the association, organization, or conference, or even the second tier group. We're going to include the cover letter, and on a systematic basis, every single week, 4, 5, even as many as 10 of those are going to be going out. Now, powerful things happen with a copy of your book, which, by the way, you can get printed for, beautifully printed for no more than $2 or $3. Add that, to a second-day FedEx delivery with your beautiful cover letter on your beautiful, letterhead, and you're going to get some tremendous opportunities. So here's what we suggest. That gets sent out on a systematic basis. Every single week, 5 are going out. This can be done in literally an hour, and you can pay a virtual assistant to do it. You don't have to do it yourself. As it's done every single week, you're going to see a tremendous compounding effect. 2 things are going to happen. One is, people are going to see it, they're going to be impressed. No one throws a book away. They're going to have your book. It's going to be on their bookshelf somewhere. Maybe they're going to thumb through it. But at the moment, there's no real need or interest. Maybe the conference, their big conference, association conference, or maybe some big meeting just ended. They don't need a speaker right now. Fine. Or, that's number 1. Or number 2, timing is going to be perfect for a smaller percentage of those people. They're going to be thinking about a conference that's upcoming. They're going to be thinking about the need to have somebody represent their company and help out in this specific area. Or they're going to want to bring somebody in for some local meeting or chamber type function. And so the timing is going to be perfect, and they're going to directly call you. But remember, that's going to be a smaller percentage of the people. So here's what we want to do as a follow-up. Remember I said you want their email addresses and telephone numbers if possible. This works really beautifully with a virtual assistant. And we have a simple script that we give to our clients for a virtual assistant to make a follow-up call. And it's just this simple. A follow-up email can go out 2 or 3 days after the book has been received, and or a follow-up call is made. It's as simple as a virtual assistant calling, and typically they're going to get the gatekeeper. They're not going to get the direct individual at Pepsi or at Exxon. And the gatekeeper is going to say, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Jones isn't available. And the person that is calling, your virtual assistant, is going to say, well, I'm calling for Ted and Andrew Kallman. And Mr. Kallman just wants to make sure that you received a copy of his best-selling book and you were able to pass it on to Mr. Jones. Oh, yes, we received it. Thank you very much. Mr. Jones has it on his desk. Fantastic. Well, Mr. Kallman has a few time slots available coming up in the next week and is wondering if Mr. Jones at Exxon would like to have just a 10-minute chat to discuss the book and the different opportunities that the book and speaking engagements might arise in the coming future. When this is done on a systematic basis, you're going to see that you will have opportunities and you'll be on the telephone with your ideal client, the direct company or association, or certainly second tier kind of local groups on a consistent basis. And the wonderful thing about this is that this is a very cost effective and simple system to do. If you were to send out, say, 5 books a week, cost-wise you're talking about no more than $15 plus shipping expenses, and then follow up maybe an hour or 2 per week for a virtual assistant or secretary or personal assistant to do. So literally in an hour or 2 a week, you can find systematically a simple and consistent way to get great opportunities. You'll be positioned beautifully as the best-selling author, with opportunities to speak like you've never had before. Our clients find tremendous success using this system. So again, a simple client attraction system. We want to have the target, we want to know what your assets are, and then we want to set up a simple and elegant system. This is just one of many, but very simple, very cost effective. Again, I'm Rob Cosberg with Bestseller Publishing. Thanks again. If this has been helpful, go to the very bottom of the page, leave us a comment. If you have any questions, let us know what your questions are, and we'll be sure to get back to you and answer them. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you again next week.